I'd like to give a special welcome to all the mothers in the audience. You know, every year there are 115 million babies born, and that means that 115 million women put their life on hold for 9 months and then dedicate their life to the care and concern of their child for at least 21 years, if not more. So we thank you for your concern, we thank you for caring, we thank you for your love, we thank you for what you do for each and every one of us to be able to know that your child is out there and has had the loving support that it deserves. Let's have a round of applause for the mothers. There's a religious conference on talking about when life begins. And there were ministers and priests from all the different religions. And the Catholic priest spoke up. And he is very definite in his viewpoint. He said, life begins with conception. Presbyterian minister, another fellow, said life begins with birth. The Baptist minister, who was known for his unwavering viewpoints, said life begins 12 weeks after conception when the fetus heart begins to beat. The only woman in the group speaks up, happened to be a unity minister. And she said, life begins when your last child leaves home and takes the dog with them. Okay. I think mothers and fathers can identify with that. Not too long ago, I was reading a 1950 edition of Science Digest. And in it, there was an article. The writer was talking about what we might expect, what they might expect back then to happen in 50 years. And it was just full of all sorts of wild, bizarre ideas. One of the ideas was, the writer said, there will be an oven and you cook with radar waves. You can bake a potato in 2 minutes. And I'm sure people are reading that and said, that's impossible, how can that happen? They talked about other things like spaceships and organ transplants and driverless cars. And I'm sure the people at that time, when they read all of those crazy projections and visions, they thought, this is preposterous, it'll never happen. Yet today, here we are living with most of those things, or in the very near future are going to become a reality, and we take them as commonplace. The article talked about a telephone that was so small you could carry it in your pocket. It didn't have to be connected to a line. You could talk to anybody in the world through it and even watch a TV or a movie on the screen that was enclosed with it. Incredible inventions. Well, here we are moving into 2017, 2018, and we have no idea what will happen in the next 50 years. What will life be like? This week, well, let me back up for a second. A minute ago I said there are 115 million babies born each year. That's 360,000 every day, 15,000 every hour. One baby born every 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. A baby just came into the world. Well, this week, Emma Jane had her 4 seconds of fame. She was born into this world, and people from far and near either telephoned or they came to see the lovely young baby. They looked down at her, and she was so precious, she was so pure, just so tiny, and I can identify with this. She was just so pink. Now, I say that because I come from a German-Norwegian heritage, and I was a very, very pink baby. So pink that my uncle suggested that they call me Bazooka and pass out bubblegum cigars. Anyway, Emma Jane came into the world, and just as it's fun to think about how life was 50 years ago and all the advancements that have taken place, it's also fun to speculate what her life will be like in the next 50 years. An organization called Cosmic Log gathered together 60 of the greatest minds in the world to talk about what the future is going to be like. 50 years from now, they all agreed that Emma Jane, or any baby born today, praising that there isn't some sort of a tragedy that takes place, will live to be 140 years old. Now that's incredible. But even more incredible, They based that opinion on the fact that they discovered a new cell that's called the senescent cell. And the senescent cell, which is in all of us, it's in all of life, is what's responsible for aging. So if they removed the senescent cell, which they did from mice, they discovered that mice began to take on a more youthful appearance, they became stronger, they became more active. So based on that, they think that the experiments or the experience of the mice will lead to providing the same thing for human beings. That we'll be able to have a long life, maintain a youthful appearance, retain healthy organs, and for the time in our life, we'll have a basically happy, illness-free life. That's just incredible. They also said that a young baby like Emma Jane, at some point in her life, she's going to have a microchip embedded in her wrist, smaller than a grain of sand. And that microchip will have all of her personal information on it. It'll have all of her health records on it. It'll have accessibility to credit cards. She can scan it when she goes to the store. It will be able to tell where she's at, anytime, anywhere in the entire world. There will be no more lost people or kidnapped children that we don't know where they're at. It's just incredible what lies ahead. And some of that is coming faster than we expect. They said they thought that within, by the time baby was 50, there would be a super race that would be born, that people would be able to custom design their babies. Through genetic manipulation, they'd be able to determine the adult height, the adult weight, the talents, the intelligence of their children. And one of the persons at this conference said, this divide between normal human beings and custom designed human beings is going to be just as great as the divide between Neanderthals and the modern human being. Everybody is going to be perfect. As a matter of fact, I heard the same thing on NPR this morning. They're talking about scientists have now been able to create a genome. And a genome is something that, it's a life form put together without having a mother or father involved. They can gather the various chemicals and whatever it takes, to the proteins, to create life. And once they do that, they'll be able to create a human being without any sort of other human being interaction. It's incredible what's taking place. We live in a day and age that is mind-boggling, to say the least. It's exciting, it's awe-inspiring. But the point of this, the quality of Emma Jane's life is going to be determined in exactly the same way as the quality of our lives is determined. In our lives, the quality of our lives is determined in exactly the same way as the quality of our parents' life, and the quality of their parents' life, and the quality of the life of all the generations and ancestors that go back. The quality of our life is dependent and determined upon one thing, and that is how we feel. Life is, in totality, an emotional experience. You know, life has a hubbub of activity. Every place we go, everything we do, we're interacting with people, with places, with different things. But the quality of our life determines on how that interaction takes place, and it's how we feel in regards to that. Now then, that brings up the question, what determines how we feel? We all feel different to a certain degree. Our feelings are based on how we react to different things, how we react to the interactions that we have. So we react to something that's going on in our world, that creates the feeling. And the feeling, once again, is the emotional experience. So that, once again, begs the question, what determines how we feel? Our quality of life is determined by how we interact with life, by the reaction we have, and how that reaction makes us feel. But what determines how we feel? Many of you heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again. When we're born, when we come into this world, little Emma Jane, our minds are like a brand new computer that has never been programmed. We are open, we are receptive, we're without perceptions. And then as we begin to grow, our parents, older siblings, teachers, preachers, society, culture begins to impress upon us different thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and perceptions. we are impressed with what is called a belief system. And by the time we're 7 or 8, this belief system is complete. And a belief system is the window that we look out at life through. It determines how we think, it determines how we feel, it determines what we like, it determines what we don't like. It is a belief system that is set. But once again, this belief system has been given to us. The vast majority of everything that you know has been told to you, either through the spoken word or the written word. We have learned how to think, we've learned how to act, we've learned how to react. So as we move forward from 7 or 8 years old, we use this belief system to determine how we're going to react to different things. And that is incredible because we all have our likes and our dislikes. We're all different to a certain degree, but we also have our upsides and our downsides. We have anger points, we have times of depression, we have times of great sadness, we have irritations, we have buttons that get pushed. All a result of the belief system that we have. So the question is, once again, is this it? I was born into this world. I was more or less programmed. My biological computer, my mind, was more or less programmed like a brand new computer. And now I am set with a belief system that I go through life on. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it benefits me, sometimes it's a great detriment. So the question is this it? Is that all there is to life? Well, it isn't. Just as a brand new computer can be programmed, it can also be reprogrammed. And so can our minds. Our minds are elastic, or elasticity is the word that they call for it. They can expand, they can change. Just as you can reprogram a computer, you can reprogram your mind. So what this tells us is if we want to increase the quality of our life, that's entirely possible. If we want to increase the amount of love that we have in our world, that is entirely possible. We are in control of that. The question is, how do we do that? And unfortunately, we're going to have to wait till next week to find that out. Or we can... Now, excuse yeah, this isn't a lead-on, believe me. I'm not saying this to get you to come back. Well, I kind of am in a way. You can watch it on YouTube, but there is a very systematic way that is embedded in spiritual principles put forth by spiritual masters over thousands of years that tell us the very same thing. When we learn to control our minds, we learn to control our lives. When we learn to control our lives, we learn to increase the quality of our lives and also increase the benefit that we are to the world. So next week, we're going to continue with this, but until then, I just want you to stop and think. When you find yourself in a state where you're highly agitated, when you're angry, when you strike out at somebody, just stop and think, this really isn't me that is doing this. This is the programming that I've adopted as my belief system, and I can change that. I can increase the happiness in my life, I can increase the peace, I can increase the harmony, and I can greatly reduce all those agitative moments that disrupt my life and disturb me in that sense. So we're going to move into meditation right now, and as we do, think about your life. Think about things you might want to change. Think about perhaps how you would increase the quality of your life, and we'll now move into meditation.